Hey guys, real quick, only 40% of our viewers are actually subscribed, so let's change that right now. Hit that subscribe button right below. Now we have an AFC North battle for first place as well, happening at Sunday at 1. We got some massive games this weekend. Pittsburgh Steelers at the Baltimore Ravens, a couple 6-6 teams. Ravens favored by 5.5 here, over under 43.5. This is the game we've been talking about for probably 2 months, where we said the Steelers started out hot, the Ravens started out 1-5. Let's see what happens on December 7th when they play. Let's see if the Ravens, with that easy schedule, if they can get back.
December 7th.
And here we are.
Like a WWF promo.
December 7th, in your house, 52, Ravens, Steelers. Here we go. Anyway, I want to say two teams trending in a different directions, but, man, Baltimore's coming off a rough loss against Cincinnati. So now it's like two teams. Steelers are definitely stumbling, but the Ravens stumbled on Thanksgiving night.
Yeah, I mean, well, two teams that are – I mean, the Steelers are definitely in trouble. The Ravens went on this run of winning games and getting themselves off the ridiculous, what are they, 1-4 record? 1-5. Then they won 5 straight, but the toughest team that they faced in that stretch was Chicago. And they weren't like this was Chicago earlier in the season before they were really on their run. Then it's Miami, Minnesota, Cleveland, New York Jets. Like none of those teams have a quarterback. And then the first team they played with a quarterback, Joe Burrow, went out there and fairly conclusively kicked their ass during Thanksgiving. Look, this is a big game for them. Like this is the whole point of their season. They were going to get back to a pretty useful looking record just based off the teams that they were going to play. Plus, the Steelers were never likely to run and hide in that division and, rack up 12 wins or whatever. So it was always going to come back to them. And then the games against Pittsburgh were likely to determine the division. And then, oh, by the way, Cincinnati theoretically is still mathematically alive in this division and apparently capable of beating both Pittsburgh and Baltimore.
Yeah, a couple 6-6 teams here, Sam. Baltimore does not feel as strong. Right? They don't.
I mean, they're not.
But Pittsburgh doesn't. I mean, there are a couple Pittsburgh numbers here. Ben Fennell, NFL. Steelers haven't completed a downfield pass, this was 2 days ago, in 36 days. So 5 straight games. This includes a Mason Rudolph start.
Right.
So he's in there as well. But Aaron Rodgers mostly. 0 for 13 with 3 interceptions in their last 5 games on 20-plus yard throws. The other stat that I saw the other day, which I believe came from Ben Solak, via John Lendyard, and I just retweeted it. Mm-hmm. Did you see this one?
No.
Aaron Rodgers, the percentage of his yards that have come after the catch is the second most. Let's see. Here we go. 66%, 66.4% of Rodgers' passing yards have come after the catch. Second only to 2011 A.J. Feely in the last 15 years. That's 713 quarterback seasons. 66.4% of Rodgers' passing yards coming after the catch. So that's 712 out of 713, or 2 out of 713, if you want to say, like second most yards after the catch. And when I was joking earlier in the season, the Steelers were winning games, and I said they're building this entire offense out of checkdowns to Jalen Warren and red zone fades to Darnell Washington and DK Metcalf. And for a few weeks, it was working, right? They had when they create turnovers and they create short fields and they're already in the red zone, they did a pretty nice job in the red zone early on. You got Darnell Washington. You've got DK Metcalf. You had checkdowns to Jalen Warren where he was turning passes into 50 and 60 yarders. You had a couple weeks ago where Rodgers had 90% of his yards came after the catch in one of their games, where the Bengals game, where Darnell Washington was just, going Derrick Henry on everybody before Rodgers got hurt. That's just not sustainable. Like, that's just not sustainable offense. Now, they did add Adam Thielen. We did joke about that. The tweet the other day that somebody somewhat predicted that a 2018 Pro Bowler was on the way to help the Steelers. No idea if he's activated in time for this, but we spent a little bit of time on Pittsburgh yesterday fixing them, giving them some roadside assistance, and saying, look, if you can get Thielen in there to be the high-volume underneath receiver, free up DK Metcalf to make some plays down the field. Like, they're still capable of making those plays, but they need something from this offense.
Yeah, they do. I mean, this is, if there is any juice left in the Aaron Rodgers, Mike Tomlin motivational aura, like this Rodgers being a Hall of Famer, one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play, Mike Tomlin being a great coach, a motivator of people. This is the week it needs to show up. I mean, both those guys put it out there fairly clearly coming off the back of last week. Things need to change. We need to get together. We need to do it now. And they do. Like, this is the team that they need. Doesn't really matter what else happens outside of this. This is the team they need to show up against. And they need to show up this second. If they can't do it, I mean, it doesn't even matter what the rest of their season looks like. I think they're in trouble at that point. If they can do it, this is the type of game, like, this is how he gets to 9 wins every year, right? It's this type of game.
The other stat that really stood out to me about Rodgers and where he is, I mean, even if you just take a step back, and you and I have both said, look, I think physically he's not the same movement skills wise. Like, physically he's not the same as far as movement goes. Arm velocity and all that, it looks the same. I do think there's an element of the accuracy is a little off, throwing the ball down the field, and that could just be age or whatever. But the last 3 years for Aaron Rodgers too, if you want to use ESPN's QBR, I think there's use in that. It's not my favorite stat overall, but it does factor in. It factors in a ton of air yards, sacks, EPA. He is in the 40s in ESPN's QBR, which is like bottom 5 in the league, bottom 8 in the league. And he was in the 40s back in 2022 with the Packers. So his last season with the Packers, he was at 41. Last year with the Jets, 44. And this year with the Steelers, 40 ESPN QBR. So again, you've got PFF grade, which factors in certain things that QBR doesn't focus on. And QBR has its strengths and weaknesses. And just using EPA has its strengths and weaknesses. But I would say the PFF grade is better at isolating the quarterback.
Yeah.
But all these other grades are probably, or these other numbers are showing some of the stuff that maybe PFF doesn't capture, but it's more holistic offensive type of stuff. And it's not as simple as, well, the whole offense is letting him down.
And it's the worst PFF grade of his career. I mean, this is
he's
the worst.
In the 60s,
like he's playing significantly worse than he was playing last year with the Jets when people thought he was the problem, right?
Right.
Like, this is like he's averaging the same 6.7 yards per attempt, but his PFF grade is a lot worse than it was last year. So if Rodgers was playing the way he was playing last year, the Steelers might be okay, but he's not. And he said this, look, something needs to change. In fact, everything needs to change, including my play. Like, I've got to play better. And he's right. Like, I'm curious to see if this husk of, great all-time greats in the NFL from a while ago can pull it together for a game where they know everything's on the line.
Yeah. I mean, so then if you really zoom out a little bit, like, the last time Aaron Rodgers has played high-end football was 2020 and 21, those 2 MVP caliber seasons with Matt LaFleur, and then it just hasn't been the same since. So my point in all this, it's like, it's going to be tough to salvage things, and this is why I think the touchdown-to-interception ratio is so overrated. Like, he's 28-11 last year. He's 19-7. It's not that bad. But, yeah, they're handed all these plays in the red zone, and that's why. It's not an efficient offense right now for Pittsburgh. No. But they're going up against a Ravens defense, which is, as you said, when they go up against bad quarterbacks, they've had success. They're still not great on that side of the ball. They don't rush the passer all that well. And then you have the matchup on the other side where historically Lamar Jackson had issues against Pittsburgh versus other teams. But he solved some of those down the stretch last year. Historically, he's 3-4, passer rating of 79 against Pittsburgh, but his last 2 games last year, late in the regular season in the playoffs, they dominated. And so this Pittsburgh defense, do you trust them at this point? Well, they've got their issues. Ravens offense, they're not what they have been. It's like a pillow fight on both sides of the ball. Like, they're just not, neither team where they were or were expected to be. So, but it's still a battle for first place here.
Yeah.
I'm just rambling about stuff.
Fair enough. I mean, I think it's going to be a fun game. Like, this division matchups are always good, even though the division isn't actually anywhere near as good as people thought it would be this year. The division matchups themselves are always good and unpredictable, as we saw when Joe Flacco took down the Steelers. This is the first game, though, where, like, the division's kind of on the line.
I want to make a pick, but I just want to rehash what happened last year. The Ravens, Lamar's in the middle of the season where he's probably the best statistical season of his career last year, and his worst game was against Pittsburgh early in the year. And he had not played them a ton in recent years because of injury. So in week 11 in Pittsburgh, 16 of 33 for 207. He was in the middle of this incredible stretch and has his worst game of the season. And then they play again in week 16, Saturday game. Will they solve it? He did. He was great then, and then great in the wild card game against Pittsburgh. So the last 2 times we've seen Lamar Jackson against the Steelers defense, he's been outstanding. By far his 2 best games against the Steelers. Prior to that, you could say whatever Mike Tomlin had, like they got something on Lamar Jackson. They are the one team that has started to slow him down. Not really the one team, because I think Kansas City's done a nice job and what have you. But the last 2 games, Lamar seemingly solved the Steelers. Will that continue? But Lamar Jackson's also in this awful stretch right now where he hasn't thrown a touchdown in 3 games, doesn't look the same running the ball. So we've got to figure out what they're capable of here. Mm-hmm. Pittsburgh also just gave up 1 million yards on the ground. Can they get Derrick Henry going?
Yeah, and you've got that whole dynamic of their pass rush, which should be more formidable than it's been. How much is that letting down the secondary and the back end? Just the whole concept of the Steelers' defense being pretty easy to diagnose and attack.
All right, man. Baltimore by 5.5 in Baltimore this weekend.
I'm going to go with Pittsburgh. I'm going to buy into the Tomlin black magic. I believe that this is how he gets the 9 wins every year. This is the game. They haven't lost more than 2 in a row at any point this season. If they do this, that's 3 in a row.
Right when they're at their lowest is when he comes, just like the Colts game a couple weeks ago.
As soon as you write them off, that's when he wins a game that he shouldn't win, and that's how they get to 9 wins every year.
This is a Tomlin game. It's a Tomlin game. Taking the Steelers. You giving Tomlin 5.5? Absolutely not. In Baltimore, he once owned Lamar Jackson. He lost him, but he once dominated Lamar Jackson.
In Baltimore, coming off 2 straight losses. Of course Tomlin's winning this game.
Harry's going to take Baltimore here.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of the video.
Check the Mic is live Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, so be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss a video.
You heard the man. Subscribe.